Uh, what is the difference between inline element and block element?
Okay, yeah. So basically, what is the difference between both? Is suppose if I do a block element, so it will have a space of the whole. It will automatically take whole width of the page. And while talking, depend upon the size of the parent one, we can say. And while talking about the inline, it will take only the specific space over there. So we have inline like a div, we have then paragraph, we have then h1 tag. These are the block level. And while talking about the inline, we have span, then anchor tag, then image. These are the inline elements in the HTML.
And what is the difference between inline block element?
Okay, so while talking about the inline block, so suppose I have inline span over here. I want to add some padding and margin. So at that time, I cannot able to update anything irrespective the margin and padding. So if I want to make it as a block with the inline, so at that time we use inline block, and we can use the padding and margin with it.
Okay. What are different positions in CSS?
Yeah, so we have relative, then absolute, then we have static, then fixed, and default one. I think it's static is default one. I think default. I forget. So these are some common here. And while talking about the difference between all, so the relative is we can say that it is relative to its current position. Suppose I put a top and left of the from current position, so it will shift from the current position. So we can say that it is relative to its current position. And while talking about the absolute, so absolute will be relative to its parent. So if there is no parent, then it will take to the grandparent, or if we don't have anything, then it will go to directly the body tag. So these are the difference between relative and absolute. And while talking about the fix, so it will be fixed to the our viewport anywhere. Suppose I want to show that help icon at the right corner at the bottom, so I can adjust that with the help of the fix. So it will be fixed that position only, even if we scroll it. And we have sticky as well. Suppose I want to make a header as a sticky, so at that time we use a sticky over there and the top zero. So when we scroll down our page, so it will automatically stick to the header at the top of the page.
Okay. And what are different new tags introduced in HTML5?
Okay, so yeah, so while talking about the tags, we have media tags that they have added new one, and then they have added some what we can say new attributes also they have added over there. So audio, video, we have two tags. Then they have added the telephone type of the attribute, then email type of the attribute, then tags. We have a semantic elements, so like a header, footer, then section, then article, then nav bar. Nav is there over there. So these are some common element, new element they have added to the HTML5.
And what are semantic tags?
Okay, so yeah, so basically we can say that semantic is mean it will give the meaning to us as well, and we can say it is the respective to meaningful for us. Suppose I'm creating a header tag, so it will give me it will show that this is kind of the header. So we can say that it is the syntactic meaningful definition of the elements. And while talking about, for it will help for a developer, instead of creating some n number of divs and placing that class as a header, class as a footer, like that. So this is the one thing we can say. And another thing, it help us to the create a SEO based application as well. So it automatically detects the SEO kind of the things. So I'm not aware about it, how it works for the SEO, but it helps for SEO as well.
Okay. What do you understand by web storage?
Okay, so yeah, so basically, while talking about the web storage, so we have in the application, if you open the network tab, sorry, the developer tool, we have their application. So inside that, we have session storage and local storage. So these are the both part of the web storage. So the difference between local storage and session storage will be applicable for the tab only. And while talking about the local storage, it will be applicable for the it will be applicable till we remove it from the local storage. So we can access into the multiple tabs as well, but it should have the same origin domain. Suppose I have google.com, and if I save something into the applications in the local storage, so if I open another tab with google.com, then I am able to access it, because both the things are the restricted to the domain level only. So we cannot access the google.com local storage to the youtube.com. So this is the things comes with it.
Have you worked with Flexbox?
Yes.
So what is Flexbox?
Yeah, so basically Flexbox allow us to what we can say, to align our content and element to the DOM. So with the help of Flex, we can easily justify our content to the center. If I want to make it as I want to add a space between arounds, and at that time we can use a content specific content at that time. So suppose I want to use a space between, so at that time it will add a space between. So I want to make it as a column level, so we can place a flex direction as a column. Then if I want to make it as a row, so these are some attributes come, we can say these are some properties comes with the flex, so it will allow us to easily manage our elements.
So if I want to align a div at the center of the screen vertically and horizontally, so what all properties we need to set in Flexbox?
Okay, so can I write a code or just tell, can I
No,
tell
no,
just?
just tell me the properties which you
Okay,
need.
okay. So, okay, suppose I have one parent and inside that I have one child and I want to make the child at the center of the page. So what I can do, I will put a parent, I will create a parent class with a div. So parent class will have the display as a fix and justify content as a center, and align content at the center, so it will allow us to write whatever div to the center. But as we have not given any height to the our parent div, so it will not allow, it will not go to the center of the page. For that we have to give him the height as a 100 pivot, whatever viewport we have, so it will take that height and it will place to the center of the page. So and if I do for a if I create a small div over there with the, we can say that the height and width, so it will automatically show at the center of the page.
Okay. And what is box model?
Okay, yeah, so every element in HTML has the box model of it. So basically every element has a few properties with it. So content is there, then we have padding, so after that we have border, and after that we have margin. So these are some common properties of the box model we have.
What is difference between margin and padding?
Okay, so yeah, so difference between both is that, so padding will be added to the between of the border, and margin will be considered as the outside of the border.
Okay. Have you made your application responsive?
Yes, we made it with the help
So
of.
what all things we need to take care to make a application responsive?
Okay, so yeah, so while talking about to making as a responsive, we have to use the media queries, and if you are using the bootstrap, we have there is a multiple breakpoints. So we have a small device, medium device, large device, then extra large device. These are some common breakpoints to us. So whenever it comes to that breakpoint, it automatically whatever CSS we written inside it, it make it as a respective to the viewport. So to make it, we use a media query first of all, and if we have a proper bootstrap we are using, so we can divide our content. We can show our content in the form of the respective to device as well. Suppose I want to make a column of 3 in the large device, so I can write cd lg at 3, and if I want to make only one, so medium device, so column md at 1, so in the medium device it will show only one. So these are something we have to do achieve, we have to consider to achieve this.
Okay. Have you worked with SAS and LESS?
Yes.
So
In,
which preprocessor you have worked?
yeah, so SCSS we use most of time with Angular.
Okay. So what is the advantage of using these
Yeah, so yeah,
preprocessors?
yeah, so yeah. So while talking about the SCSS, we have predefined features comes with it. So basically we can do a nesting kind of the thing as we do for the functions and we do for the HTML elements. So such kind of things we can do. Then we can create our own variable over there. That variable also we can use into the multiple times. These are the two things we have. Then mixins, so with the help of mixins we can create some such kind of the uh, block or CSS over there, so it will be applied to the whenever there is a required. So we can directly we can say that the exclude mixin and we can include that mixin whatever mixins over there. So we can extend some CSS over there as well. So these are some things comes with it. So we can use a conditionally rendering as well with the help of SCSS. So these are some few features of SCSS we usually use.
Okay, let's go with data types in JavaScript.
Okay, so basically, yeah, so we have two types of data types, so primitive and non-primitive. While talking about the primitive, we have number, string, boolean, undefined, null. These are the primitive one, and non-primitive will be string, sorry, array and object. These are some common data types we have.
What is difference between null and undefined?
Okay, so yeah, so null is nothing but we can say it is kind of the one value. So suppose I have an object, first name and last name. After the submitting the form, I want to make it as a, I want to make the field value as a blank. So at that time, I can assign null to the object. So it automatically remove the whatever first name, last name over there. So it will be behave as a value. And while talking about the undefined, so we have created one of the variable, but we have not assigned any value it. So and we are trying to access that variable before its initialization as well. So at that time with the help of hoisting we'll get undefined.
What are different scopes in JavaScript?
Okay, yeah. So we have block scope, then function scope, and the global scope. So these are the few scopes we have. So while talking about the block scope, we have let and const. Those are accessible inside the block only. And while talking about the var, we can create a variable inside the function scope only. And if we do not use var or let before the any variable, so it will be considered as a global variable.
Okay, what is hoisting?
Yeah. So suppose okay. So while talking about the our JavaScript application, we have two phases over the compilation and execution. So before execution of the any single line of the code in the compilation phase, what does suppose we have created variable with a var, then function, then class. These are going to hoist it. So we can say that the it will be attached to the global object global if I go to that network tool sorry developer tool, and if I see that the global, so if we put a debugger at single line first line only at the time of the execution, so we have already this value attached to the our global window global object. So this with the help of hoisting it is allow us to access those variable before its declaration as well. So if I are creating one function at line number 5, but we are calling that function at line number 2, even if that will not throw error because of the hoisting. While talking about the other technology, if we try to access in C sharp, so at that time it will throw error because that function is not available for on that line number 2. So this is the hoisting for us in the JavaScript.
So is hoisting different for let and const?
Yeah. So I forget about that. Okay. So with the help of where when we create a variable with a var, at that time it will attach to the global object. And while talking about the let and const, it will attach to the script block, which is apart from the global object. So that those are also going to hoist, but problem is that so it is not attached to the global object. It will be having the separate script block over there, so it will be available over there. And they are the we can consider as a temporal dead zone for them. Suppose I created one variable and I have not assigned any value of it, so whatever the duration between creation and the assigning the new value, that will be a temporal dead zone for them.
Okay. What is lexical scope?
Okay, yeah. So lexical scope is nothing but so how the we are able to access the variables which are not related to our functions as well. So while talking about, we have the example as a closure. So we can access our inner function, then a parent one function, and the outer function, outer variable. Sorry, we can access our own variable, then parent variable, and the outer variable as well. So these are the lexical scopes for us.
Okay. What is closures?
Yeah, so closure is nothing but okay. So difference between closure and the function which will be, so in the function, as soon as the function get executed, it will remove from the global context API, the call stack. And while talking about the closure, it will be having the reference of the whatever parent in the parent one which should return to it. So we can say that the it is a function inside another function. So parent will return the reference of the inner function. So inner function can access the parent variable and the inner variable as well. So in the simple term, we can say it's a function inside another function, and it will access the parent variable and its own variable as well.
Okay. What is difference between shallow copy and deep copy?
Okay, yeah. So shallow copy will copy the reference of the whatever the base object over there. So if we do change on the, suppose I have parent as a base and child as a new one. So if I do shallow copy at that time, what happens? If I do something changes into the shallow copy in the child, then parent also get affected. So this is the shallow copy because because we are sharing the references of the both to the we are sharing the one reference to the both one. And while talking the deep copy, it will be having it is not connected to the parent one. It will be having a separate space with the help of we have that json.stringify. So with the help of the we can get a object, make it as a stringify, and we can directly assign as a string. So we can convert it again to the with the help of json.parse. So this is how the difference between both.
Okay. Have you worked with the ES6 new
Yeah.
features introduced
Yes.
ES?
Yeah.
Can you tell the new features which are introduced?
Okay, yeah. So basically, we have arrow functions. First of all, it comes with the arrow function. So we have a instead while talking about the only for the syntactical difference, this is the one difference. And while talking about the this inside an arrow function, so we do not have directly access of this. If we have any closest object inside the arrow function, at that time we access that this as that object reference. And another thing, we do not have access of the argument object inside an arrow function. So we have to use a rest and the spread operator. So with the help of the rest, we can access whatever variable, whatever parameter we are passing to the function, so we can collect it inside the single. So this is the things comes with the arrow function, and the arrow function not going to hoist, normal function going to hoist, because it's a function declaration. So function declaration is that, and function expression, sorry. So this is the function expression. So we're assigning some function to the any variable, so it will not going to hoist. And while talking about the another feature, the rest and spread, the spread operator will spread whatever things inside it, it will spread to us. And if I want to make some another thing, so with the help of the spread operator we can do that. And while talking about the rest operator, as I mentioned that suppose I'm passing n number of variable, but I'm not aware how many parameter I'll be passing to the functions. At that time we can collect that all variable into the single element with the help of the rest. And we have destructuring as well. Suppose I have an object and I want to take some values from it. So instead of creating that uh, variable as a instead of decrypting one by one, we can use the directly spread destructuring. So with the help of that, it automatically takes the matching value from the object. So these are things come with it. Then we have promises, then we have async await, then mm, we have some array methods also that added get it. So we have filter, then we have reduce, these are also added. Then there is a for string related one thing, I forget name of it. So it's a like no,
Literal?
literal, sorry. The literal is over there, so we can write a multi-line sentence into the JavaScript as well. So these are some common features I know of this.
Okay. I have shared one code snippet. Can you tell me the output of it?
Okay, so so we are accessing set timeout inside for loop and the variable with a var. So it will print six six time.
And if I change where to let, then
Okay, so on that case, what will happen? So every element will have the new memory location for it. So it will print one by one. Hello.
oh yeah, sorry. Okay. Let me give you another one. So what is the output of this? First with where and then with let.
Okay, so we are calling F1. Okay. Acha, try with where then let, correct? Okay, so you are asking about first where then let, correct?
Right.
Okay, okay, okay. so we are calling the function is true. We are trying to access a, and that time it will be first will be undefined, then 10, and we are trying to access that variable outside, so it will again undefined it. In the outside of that true block, it will try to access the global a, but that is not present, so it will be having the undefined. So undefined, 10 and undefined will be there with the var.
Are you sure the last one will be undefined?
uh, sorry, we have function scope for var. It will be 10. It will be 10 only, because we are sharing the same reference to the function. Sorry, I thought that it was outside of that f1.
Okay, and with the let, what will be the output?
So with the let, it will throw error for us as a reference error. So
Okay.
it will not execute the next lines.
Okay. Have you used map and for each functions?
Yes.
So what is the difference between for each and map?
Okay, so for each we use to iterate the values from the arrays or object. Basically, suppose I have an array and I want to iterate it. So to make some calculation. So at that time we use for each, and I don't want to return anything. Always for each will not return to us anything. So, but in the case of the map, it will transform whatever things over there. If I want to do multiplication of the each element, so it will create a new array for us. So this is the difference between both. So for each will only iterate, so it will not return anything, and in the map will return for us something.
And what is the difference between call, apply, and bind?
Okay, yeah. So it is the way we can access, we can bind our new our okay. So this is the way, with the help of that we can bind our this with the our function. So suppose I have an object one, so I'm printing with the print name first one, like that print name, and I want to print now with object two. So at that time what I can do, I can pass object two as a reference to that function. So this is how I can use the call, apply, bind. And the difference between call and apply is that with the help of the comma separate, we have to pass a parameter to the call. And while talking about the apply, we have to use the array formatted. So in the array, we have to pass. And in the bind, it will create a reference for us to execute later on. So in the call and apply, it get executed automatically at the time of the load, at the time of the calling only, and bind will not execute the on the single line. So it will be having the reference of that whatever the new this we have passes, and we can access it later on.
By default, JavaScript is synchronous or asynchronous.
It is a synchronous.
So how will you achieve the asynchronous behavior?
Okay, yeah. So to make it as a asynchronous, we use callbacks basically. So we have callbacks, then set timeouts. These are some browser APIs. Then with the help of promise-based architecture, we use to write asynchronous code. Then we have async await. So these are the ways to make it as a asynchronous.
And what is recursive functions?
Recursive function is nothing but, so we can say that it will call itself again and again. So I have one what we can say, I want to calculate in the what we can say that function will call itself again and again. So this is how the recursion is. And okay, so we have one chaining over there. Suppose I want to get the parameters, suppose sum, then a comma, bracket 1, then bracket 2, bracket 3. So these are, we are passing some elements to it. I want to get the total of it right now. So what I can do over there, I will check the b parameter is available or not. So if it is available, then I will call sum again, because a is the total of it and b will be the next parameter. So we can call the function itself again and again till the some conditions comes.
Okay. So what are basic components in Angular?
Okay, yeah. So basic component, we have modules, then we have components, then we have directives, then we have services, then we have a dependency injection. So these are some common building blocks, or we can say dependency, everything to create an Angular application.
And what are different decorators in Angular?
Yeah, so we have a component, then input and output, then view children, then we have ng module. So whatever we use what we can say that at the rate and the element over there, that is the decorator for us. So these are we have a few, then injectable also over there.
And how will you communicate between different components in Angular?
Okay, so we have multiple ways for it. Suppose I have parent-child relationship. At that time, what I can do, I can use with the help of input output. We can create, we can do a communication between both. And if we don't have the parent-child relationship, with at that time we can use. We have some simply sibling components. I have right now. So I want to make communication between both. So at that time, I can use a subject with the help of the services. So we can use a similar subject into the another component. So as soon as it get a new value of it, so it will get notified to the another component. So this is the subject we can use. And if we have a ngrx we are using into the application, so we can use a single store to the multiple application. So these are some common ways we have.
What is routing in Angular?
Okay, so as Angular is a single page application, so we do not reload our page while navigating to the another pages. So with the help of routing, we can achieve the route navigation into the Angular application. So routing helps us for it. So to moving to the one page to another page. So we have three types of the routing: eager loading, lazy loading, and preloading. So eager loading will be loaded the component as soon as it getting created to the bundle. And while talking about the lazy loading, it will be having a, we can say that it will be on demand will be. So when we click on that route, at that time it loaded to the DOM. So with the help of the load children we do that. So with the help of the load children we pass to the path of the we have to create a model for it first of all. So that model we can create and we can pass that reference model reference to the our app.routing.ts file. So that will trigger for us. And another thing is a preloading over there. So similar it's a, we can say, the mixture of the eager loading and the lazy loading. So it will create a module for us instead of creating the eager loading one, but it will load into the background. So it will not wait for if we have some delay over there or we have some conditions, so it will be loaded into the background.
Okay. Mm, oh, have you worked like what are directives?
So we have a component is one kind of the directive. It's a special directive. So the component directive comes with its special template. So we structural directive and behavioral directive, we don't have such kind of the thing. And while talking about the structural directive, suppose I want to do some changes into the DOM. At that time we use a structural directive. So we use a ng class, then we use ng if, then ng for, then ng style. These are the directive we use as a structural directive to make it as a something to introduce DOM. And while talking about the behavioral directive, so we can use a, we can create one directive and we can pass that directive to that button. So that will be the host listener for that that directive. So while talking about the behavioral directive, we have host binding over there and host listener. So host listener will be the listening whatever the directive saying. And if I want to do some style related changes at that time, so it will be with the help of the host binding, it will change the styling of it. So we can say that the suppose I have one button, two buttons, so danger button and the success button. So I can pass some parameter to our directive. So that depend upon the type, we can change the background color or button color with specific. So this is the structural behavioral directive. Sorry. So we have predefined pipes as well. So uppercase, lowercase, then we have that type of pipe. Then we have, these are the predefined pipes. And while talking about the custom pipes, we can create pure pipe and impure pipe. So while so if we are creating a pipe as an impure, so whenever something gets changed into the DOM, at that time it get loaded. It will try to reload our the page. So that is not the correct way to write a pipe or create our custom pipe. For that we use a pure pipe basically. Whenever the input parameter get changed into the whatever we have written over there in the weather pub ng for that parameter we are passing as an input. So at that time only that the filter will trigger or pipe will trigger. So this is the one way to write a pure pipe. And we have async pipe as well. So that is the impure pipe basically. So that is also kind of the impure pipe. So whenever something changes into the DOM, at that time it is trying to access that again that observable thing or subscription thing. So that we can try to avoid to use into the application to make it performance more.
Okay. Have you worked with any testing framework?
Yeah, we used it. Jasmine, Karma.
Okay. Okay.